I just let myself go. I began to place more and more bets. I began to spend more and more time on my own upstairs. I withdrew from work. I withdrew from being a father. I stopped functioning as a husband. When I spent all the money that I had in savings, I started taking the equity out of our house without telling my wife.
It got really bad to the point of, you know, my kids were living on beans and cereal, and my first priority was to get crack cocaine.
All I know now is that the Holy Spirit obviously was taking me back to this church, because like it didn't make sense to me. I had nothing in common with these people, you know, but I kept going back there. And I remember outside the church I was smoking a fag, right? And this Christian lady come up to me and she said, Christians don't smoke cigarettes. So in my head I'm thinking, I better not tell her that I'm a heroin, crack thief and a prostitute if she's worried about a fag.
So I was medicating with a depressant, my depression. And I wanted to kill myself, and the suicide thoughts were massive and very regular, and I started planning how I was going to do it.
I met this chap who was to become my husband. I never got over that feeling of being less than, feeling that I wasn't good enough for him, and that's when my eating disorder kicked off. That's when I started binging and purging, binging and vomiting. And it was every day, and it wasn't just the bulimic, I was anorexic as well.
So I became that impregnation of sex at a very tender age, give me a huge sort of distortion about what love was about, you know, what women were about, and it plagued me, it really got me.
I caused so much destruction in my life. I lost my job and my home, my wife and my children. Was because I hadn't reached step one. I wasn't ready to admit that I had a problem. I just thought I could carry on gambling and bet my way out of trouble, which is a complete delusion.
So I didn't realise that, you know, how bad it was. While you're taking crack, that's all you think about. Drugs, 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 nothing else but drugs, drugs, drugs. And you pay so much money to get in that horrific state.
It was always in the dark, it was always secretive, it was the wanting and the getting, and a distortion in the mind that, and I'll be honest with you, I hated it. But it still had a voice, it still had an excitement, it still had a let's live on the edge, you know.
My drinking just became horrendous. I could hold off during the day, I could hold down a job as what they call a functioning addict. But at night, 3 bottles of cheap red, 40 fags, no problem.
But you know, any addiction, I think you lose common sense, goes out the window, doesn't it? So that played an effect on me in commitment, made me very dishonest.
And it was because I tried OA, I tried other forms of treatment, I tried a day clinic for my eating disorder, nothing was working at all. And so I felt that I wanted to try the 12 steps, but through Christ, and I'd heard about the recovery course.
The 12 steps was in line with biblical teaching, and that was unexpected. And even though I thought I didn't need it, the first time I was there, I just sobbed the whole way through. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move.
But I think it's made me more coherent, more patient, and just to live a life that sort of enjoy without being how I used to be.
Where you are is not where you're going to stay, you know, and the thing about recovery is you can't go around it, you can't go under it, you can't go over it. You have to go through it in order to learn a thorough lesson and be the awareness of it. There's no other way, and you know what? When I look at my life, I wouldn't want it any other way, because if it was a magic wand would be just waved and it'd be gone, you wouldn't respect that.
The recovery course helped me a huge amount because I felt it was just an honest course. Rather than pretending that your higher power is a chair in the corner, you're actually being honest and saying it's God. And what I would say to anyone who's coming to recovery course for the very first time is stick it out. Give it a couple of goes. If you maybe don't feel comfortable the first week, come back the second week, because you will find recovery here.
If I can't help someone by passing this on and showing what Jesus has done for me, then I wouldn't feel full. That's my journey and that's my job.
The recovery course it is one of the best things that I have ever done in my adult life, definitely, because it still works for me today.
And I know that I have to keep work closely walking with Christ, because He's the one that set me free, and the healing that I have is an ongoing healing. And it's just amazing what He's done, just amazing.